Hi everyone, it's Sam, NFTstatistics, and this is your Proof Daily NFT Countdown. After a long weekend away, it is good to be back, even though it has been a rough, eventful weekend. We're going to talk all about it. Let's dive right in, starting off with a quick market overview. Volumes were kind of pretty flat over the weekend. I mean, in terms of volumes, it was really nothing all that out of the ordinary. But what was really unique was that large cap index just completely got crushed, down about 7% over the past 5 days. And that's including a bit of a bounce back over the past day. We'll talk about that. In terms of the large cap components over the past 5 days, Doodles, Moonbirds, Clonex actually did pretty well. But DeGods, Azuki, Bored Ape Yacht Club, Captainz, Punks, all very, very weak. Mid cap index wasn't quite as weak. There's not quite as much airdrop farming on the mid-cap index anymore. It just tends to have a little bit less volatility. Still had some strength in Nakamigos, a little bit of strength in Muraqqa, some weakness in VV Checks, weakness in Forgotten Ruins. I think the big projects over the weekend, though, were Azuki and Bored Ape Yacht Club, just because they have always been, aside from Punks, they are the top two PFPs in the ecosystem, at least have been. You saw Azuki just kind of continued its weakness, got down into the sixes before bouncing back. Bored Ape Yacht Club had some trades as low as 27 ETH before bouncing back. So really kind of unseen levels in the past year or so. In terms of trades, what you see here, is that traders had a few very, very weak days, and it all kind of peaked out on July 2nd, which was Sunday. That was really the capitulation day and probably the worst day that we've seen in a long time, followed by a bit of a bounce back, which we will discuss. In terms of our projects, floor prices for our project have remained pretty flat. Chromie Squiggle seeing a little bit of weakness, but nothing all that crazy. Just kind of a different trader ecosystem over there. Not a whole lot of volume over the past couple of days. Did have a Fidenza sale a few days ago for 72.5 ETH. A bold Chromie Squiggle. This was bought by Curated, one of the big buyers left in the ecosystem, for 28.5 ETH. An elevated deconstruction, the lowest supply project from that season one, had a 15 ETH sale, and then a Meridian for 7.2 ETH. Second thing to talk about is kind of the first thing we talked about. We're just going to dive in here on this complete drop that we had in prices, this complete capitulation. I mean, if you're looking here, this is 30-day rolling returns for the large cap index that I keep. And what you can see is that we have just had the worst 30-day stretch basically in the history of this index. Now, it's not the oldest index. It only goes about 2 years, back. That was really when kind of a lot of the big PFP projects came in the ecosystem. But since it was developed, we have never had this week of a month, and probably this week of a 1 week, or this week of a 1 week period as well. What basically happened? A ton of NFTs got dumped into bids that had not been traded before. I show you this chart all the time following the Azuki reveal, and really kind of basically ever since the Azuki event. You had over 150 NFTs per day that had never been dumped into bids that were dumped into bids. That is a ton of supply that needs to get digested. The chart looks quite similar for Bored Ape Yacht Club. You had almost 30 Bored Apes per day dumped into bids that needed to get digested. Again, when they get bought by farmers. So, it takes a little while to work through them. The other thing that happened was leverage really fell. We got up to nearly 4,000 NFTs on Blend, and that came down to about 3,000. This is a weird step chart, kind of struggled a little bit there with the chart creation, but you see the basic idea. Was that really over the weekend we went from, we've gone from 4,000 at peak to 2,700 NFTs that were on Blend. So a lot of liquidations there. Now, what do liquidations mean? It means that the NFTs go into the hand of airdrop farmers. Airdrop farmers are the main lenders, and they're and tend not to be kind of diamond-handed holders once they get those NFTs. So that's just more that needs to get dumped. Now, I think the big question, though, is what about this reversal? We bottomed on July 2nd, and then things completely ripped. You had a 9% up move from the absolute trough in that index. Like, what happened there? And I think one of the big things, let's have a look at who were the big buyers. And the single biggest buyer, and I think everyone knows this, was Machi Big Brother. I mean, Machi Big Brother came in, over the past month, he spent about 5,000 ETH on NFTs, but just over the past few days, he spent 1,800 ETH on NFTs that he has held. These are NFTs that he has not yet sold yet. Machi personally spent more than the entire Blend wallet on NFTs that are currently being held. And another player that doesn't get discussed very much, but has really been one of the big farmers in this market, has been Punks OTC. Punks OTC hasn't been selling quite as much. He's been a bit more gradually buying, but Punks OTC was the third biggest buyer of NFTs over the past few days. on the market, only buying Machi and the Blend wallet. When I look at pretty much everybody else here, it's almost all airdrop farmers who've done most of the buying. And this is why I have a hard time kind of getting too excited, is that the biggest buyers are all people who have a very strong track record of flipping. One wallet there was simply one that came in and swept apes. It was a new wallet, but by and large, and Punk's OTC has held a little bit more, but I think over the past few months has been a bit of an airdrop farmer and a trader. So by and large, I think the people who are holding are all people who are vulnerable to do big sales. The flip side of that is that once you get kind of these bidders, it does give other real buyers a bit more confidence to step in. And I think we saw that. You saw people who, people saw that Machi was putting a ton of money onto Blur. They're like, okay, maybe we bought him. Then other people may have tagged along and just bought in smaller size. This is from, Cyrus tweeted this image basically showing that Machi added 1,000 ETH to the pool, then another 1,000, then 1,100 ETH to the pool. He tweeted yesterday, I'm not a market maker, I'm the market. Really kind of taking pride in stepping up. He was certainly the number one Blur farmer. As you can see from this chart over the past few days, just bidding, pretty much across the board. Here's his net long position just in June. Machi went from, flat in the beginning of June, not flat, but this starts in the beginning of June to up to over 5,000 ETH long NFTs. And he's since been selling a little bit, but people have confidence and have come in and bid. In turn, Punk's OTC also, mentioned Punk's OTC, also a big player. He got as long as 3,000 ETH of NFTs. So another person who's just been really long. Punk's OTC primarily in Mutant Apes and a few other projects. Looking at the P&L, these guys have not been making money. If you look at the absolute realized return for Machi, down about 300 ETH in June. So it's going to take a lot of Blur points to offset that, but he did buy the bottom here. So maybe when he realizes some of these trades, he'll be looking a little bit better. The other thing that I'd say has really kind of been a factor here, or a new player that's emerged onto the system, is perp platforms, NFT Perp and Tribe. These are two of the ways that you can actually short NFTs, and you can see here that they start to get a lot more volume. Now, these trades don't have underliers that actually impact the actual market. It's not like when you sell, someone's going out and selling in the actual market, but certainly something that has increased in popularity. My overall take here is I think that we had gotten very used to stable, slow grind lower environment. What I mean by that is, when NFTs would go lower, that was when airdrop farmers would come in and bid. So you had this thing where NFTs would go down, but they wouldn't go down that much because the airdrop farmers would bid. That's how they earned maximum points. And over time, farmers got comfortable that things weren't going to crash that fast. They started putting out loans at 0%, 15% below floor price, started doing loans at 10% below floor price for certain yields, started, bidding on a ton of NFTs, knowing they could dump it to the next farmer. That kind of became the paradigm. And then everything changed with Azuki. When Azuki had this external event, the reveal of elementals that led to a lot of FUD, a lot of disappointment, the farmers couldn't hold it up. And the farming community lost a ton of money. And then, when they lost a ton of money, they basically started to withdraw liquidity, stop lending, stop bidding. And people really came in and started dumping their NFTs. I think part of the problem is that with the farming world we're in, aren't that many real buyers left. People have been pushed out. People have not that much interest in buying NFTs in this environment where there's so much pump and dump that when the farmers left, there really wasn't anyone left to pick up the bag. I think we saw that Machi Big Brother, Punk's OTC, a lot of these big bidders just restored confidence, and we had a bit of a rebound. I find it hard to get too bullish because I really do think that flippers were the main buyers. They could sell at any time, but who knows? Confidence has certainly a little bit come back to traders and other people alike. So we will see how this plays out. Third thing I want to talk about, the Captainz Reveal finally happened. Everybody's been talking about the Captainz Reveal. And I'm kind of like, why does everyone want the Captainz Reveal so bad? We know that reveals lead to sharp falls in prices. That happens across everything. But the community had really been pushing for this. They finally got it. Check your mother-loving dashboard. This was from Memeland. And what did they try to do? They tried to create a PFP that represents each individual, that allows individuals to grow on their own, that they don't want to sell. These are customizable. The other ideas they can work with brands and other projects, and the owner gets to choose the skin color, the gender, traits, and they can create and sell traits. I'm sure there'll be rare traits that get added over time and can add some value. They want the people to see themselves as owners, not sellers. And they quoted, they said, "We know this is dangerous, but a ship in the harbor is safe. And that's not what ships are built for. We are here to do something risky and different." What does that art look like? The top three are some humans you can see. You have some of the more rares at the bottom, a little bit of feel for this. So many of them end up looking very similar, which I think is something that people struggle with a little bit. Another issue, they said there's a bug bounty. Anyone who finds issues with traits, so someone wrote a thread and came up with the fact that this alien trait had some issues. You can see on that left image that the alien skin is kind of bulging from the shirt. So they fixed that and gave that person 0.069 ETH as a bug bounty. Just kind of not a great look to have these things going wrong, but they handled it perfectly well. And then the other thing that happened was they basically said that the internet cache that people had wasn't updating fast enough. So people weren't always seeing the traits on the NFTs that people had bought or that people had. So in order to fix this, what they did was they reverted everything back to the babies. But now that they're the babies, they still have those traits that they had. You just can't see them, though. You can tell here that the skin color and a couple other traits do translate back into the baby. So all kind of interesting stuff. What we've seen is that, Captainz certainly were not spared from the absolute market massacre that we had. Peaked over 9 ETH, got down below 6 ETH on the back of the negativity that we saw. I think people, by and large, buy the rumor, sell the news was certainly a thing here. And people are wrapping their head around this. This is something totally new. This, we are used to, you flip a rare and you get something special and people FOMO and want what you have. Here, this is a different paradigm where they're saying you got to build as you go along, and we will see how FOMO builds up over time. Will be interesting to track. Always nice to see someone doing new things. Never nice to see the price go down, but let's see how that evolves. And then fourthly, let's talk about a few notable sales over the weekend in the art world. First of all, a lost Robbie sold for 175 ETH. We have talked about this pretty extensively, I think 2 or 3 times on the show. There have been a few other sales this week. This was art that was given to a Christie's auction many years ago. Basically, a Muslim got lost, didn't get claimed. It's AI-based, kind of a very early example of what an AI generator did when it tried to replicate the human body, and this is what came out. We've had a bunch of sales. This one was for 150 ETH. We've had a bunch kind of in that 150 to 300 ETH range. So this sale wasn't at the top, but it was a huge kind of market meltdown. So still interesting to see a 175 ETH sale in the market that we have been in. Congrats to the buyer and seller there. A couple art pieces I quickly wanted to talk about. Compend-AI-M 2023 number 9 by Agoria. This piece sold for 5 ETH, and Agoria has had a bunch of sales in that 5 to 10 ETH range. Here are a few of them: 9.6, 5.825, 5.825. Really cool looking art. The artist claims, "I am on a journey to reveal the artistry that lives within us, the non-systematic beauty of the living. I don't know where that journey leads, but I'm excited. Biological generative art is within each and every one of us." And he calls this biological generative art, the idea of kind of replicating natural things through generative art, and really cool to have a look through his work. It's pretty nice stuff. And then last thing to talk about of the day, Muraqqa edition number 3 of 3 by Orkhan. We've talked about Orkhan, an Azerbaijani artist who has had a bunch of big sales, who OSF made some purchases of his work, sold this piece here for 10 ETH. Just a little bit about how he describes this piece. He says it's a testament to various periods in Azerbaijan's history, with its narrative woven through the different styles of miniature paintings found within an album or a Muraqqa. The traditional Muraqqa, rich in authenticity, serves as a blueprint for building a digital counterpart, an alternative virtual realm. I hope I pronounced that right with Muraqqa. Should have checked with ChatGPT before the show on how to pronounce it, but didn't. So just trusting my instincts here. But very cool piece, and congrats on that. That is all from me today. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I hope you survived. I think we tweet about some of these negative markets. For me, it's analytics. It's fun to understand what's going on in these very unique marketplaces. But I know that a lot of people are really struggling, that a lot of people lost money. That is never fun. I hope no one, kind of watching here got over-levered and everyone's doing all right. If you did like the show, give us a like below. Tell us what you think in the comments. Subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you tomorrow. And just about every weekday. Just about. With another show. Have a great day.